Well, shalom everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. We're up to page 131 of volume 2 of Rabbi Victor Miller's New Translation and Commentary of Duties of the Mind, and we are in Shah HaBakina, the Gate of Examining, and we are just going to finish where we left off in the last audio in this series, and that was talking about a story of, essentially, of two brothers. Both brothers getting a parcel of land, sort of inheriting a parcel of land from their father, each similar quality. There was no sort of disparagement of the types of lands that were given. And as the story unfolded, one of the sons chose to work the land in his own time and work for some other company during the business hours, working hours of the day. And over time, and on weekends, and over time he found that he could work on his land more until finally the land that he was working was making its own produce. And then he reduced the amount of hours that he was working on his land to the point where eventually he could work on his land 100% full-time for himself, making money and growing. Whereas the other brother didn't do anything to the land that he was given, but he was just spending all his spare time, all the working hours rather, working for another company, and when he had spare time, he would just be sort of resting and not doing anything with his parcel of land. So in time, his land became overgrown and full of thorns, and it was just, he never managed to kind of get on his feet. He was always sort of working for the man. And so now we have a kind of lesson learned from this story, and I was just going to start today's video just sort of looking at that story of that mashal in summary and seeing what we can find out in addition to what we looked at when we essentially were going through the story in the previous video. Okay, so this is page 131. The wise person realizes the need to work for his livelihood and gives up some time for that. So rather than spending all his time in leisure, when his time is his own, he spends time building himself up, even if he's only doing a tiny little bit towards that end goal. But whenever he gets a chance, such as in the evenings or on a day off, he returns to what is most important, investing in his own garden. He works on improving his own mind, his neshama, and his own character. That investment will surely pay off, and in the course of time, he will become a wealthy man in da'at, in knowledge, and he will be a multimillionaire in chokmah, in wisdom. The greatest wisdom is gaining an understanding of the truths of the Torah, knowledge of Hashem, the Bri'at Ha'olam, the creation of the world, and the history of our great people and the laws of the Torah and the principles of midot, that is virtuous behavior or character, or good character. These are all the things that he needs to learn if he is to acquire wealth, and so to achieve this wealth, he will devote whatever time he has available whenever he is able. So normally we'll see people that succeed actually are very sneaky, meaning that they'll operate in a way that enables them to sort of do things that are have quite a lot of ingenuity, and they'll be very resourceful, and they will even go with lack of sleep and do all sorts of things to be able to achieve their goal of attaining wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And so somebody in the Torah world who wants to draw closer to Hashem and strengthen and bolster his connection to Hashem will always go beyond what the minimum requirements are. So what are some of you, not many, but some of you may be sort of thinking, what are my minimum requirements? And these minimum requirements are laid down in the Torah quite clearly in terms of the 10 commandments. But even then, there are 613 commandments for the Orthodox Jew, and even then, depends if you're a male or a female, which of those are applicable to you, or if you're a Kohen or not a Kohen, or if there's a temple in existence with a functioning priesthood, Kohanim, that's what I was looking for. It all is dependent. So no one's ever expected to obey all the 613 laws. It depends on who you are and what you do, and what era it is, and what the circumstances are. And so at the end of the day, you you work out what's my baseline, and the baseline is the weekly Torah portion. And you need to become familiar with what the names of the weekly Torah portions are, because knowing the names of the weekly Torah portions will trigger you to understand some of the things that are in that portion for that week. And every year, reading through the daily aliyahs, not waiting until the Sabbath to read the entire Torah portion, and through half of it you fall asleep or you're not paying attention, but read the actual breakup of the Torah over that course of that week and the commentaries. It's very important to read the commentaries. It's absolutely crucial to have one finger in the Torah text and one finger in the commentaries constantly. And so, in addition to that, you will read the monthly cycle of the reading of Psalms, which follows the Psalms that were actually sung by the Levitical choir on a daily basis in the Beit HaMikdash when it was still standing. And you'll also be following along with the reading of the Torah with anybody who's anyone in the Orthodox Jewish world, the great Gedolim of our era, whoever they may be, and even the hidden Tzaddikim, whoever they are in your era, are also following along, and you are joining the chorus of that heavenly song by engaging in that. So you'll need a good book of Psalms, and you'll need to resolve to the commitment of reading through the book of Psalms according to that monthly schedule of what Psalms are on for that particular day. So that's going to require you to get a hold of a calendar or have a calendar available in some format, and to follow a schedule. No one is going to get out alive, so to speak, if they are not committed to following a schedule of learning, even as a base level as that, following the weekly Torah portions and the daily aliyot, and reading the relevant Psalms. And so this, in many ways, is your baseline, and everything else you're going to do is going to actually be building on this central this core foundation. Anything in addition will be determined on what your actual profession is, what gender you are, and whether you are a Jew, whether you are a Gentile, and whether you have kids, whether you don't have kids. It's the circumstances are highly numerous and can be very complex, but for you, they're just what your circumstances are. You can grab a scratch piece of paper and a pen and work those out within a few minutes, and work out what are my obligations, what do I need to do, and how can I expand on what I'm doing to do more that is relevant to me. Don't get caught up in things that have nothing to do with you. I just recently did a new video called the Mark of the Beast Derangement Syndrome, and I talk a bit about that in that video. Check it out if you get a chance. So it's very easy to do. It just takes you a little bit of time to sit down and to organize, and you will achieve the goal. But you have to have a plan, and you have to stick to that plan, and you have to, at least in the very beginning, be prepared to maybe lose a bit of sleep, and the early bird catches the worm, all that sort of stuff. And you have to be vigilant to see where you can get opportunities to learn. So, if you're in the car, your car becomes a mobile yeshiva. You can listen to Torah lectures in the car whenever you drive anywhere. So that's constantly a time of learning when you're in the car. If you go for a walk, you can listen to something on your earpods. You can listen to it on your Walkman or whatever, or your headphones, your wireless headphones. And so that becomes a time of Torah learning. Maybe you can carry around a pocketbook with you. There are plenty of books that are pocket size. This one's a good example. This is the Concise Chafetz Chaim. This is a copy I actually bought my friend who passed away recently, and I managed to get this copy. So it means a lot to me. It's got a lot of meaning to me. And it's laws concerning Lashon Hara. The Chafetz Chaim, he was the unparalleled expert in the realm of Shimurat Halashon, which is clean speech. And most people talk a lot in their lives, and so it's important to know what's appropriate to speak about and what is inappropriate. And it teaches you how to conduct yourself in a correct manner in social situations. And this is just like a pocket-sized book that you can put in your pocket, and you can flip open instead of picking up your phone and scrolling aimlessly through your phone, or playing video games which don't do anything for you, just keep you entertained with pretty lights and sounds. you can actually be standing in line and learning Torah even when you're waiting in a line in a post office or somewhere. So you've got to start approaching your life like that, and you've got to start getting serious. And you've got to go, okay, which sefer I'm going to take with me to work today? Which sefer am I going to take with me on this journey today into the city? I'm going to take this sefer. And so you take the sefer with you, this little pocket sefer, and you go, I'm going to see if I can see how much of this I can knock over while I'm out and about in the city, seeing to my business affairs or whatever it is you have to do to go down there. Even if it's to catch up with a friend, have a social, you'll take the sefer with you, and maybe even you'll pull it out at the table and have a chat about some of the content of the sefer with your friend, if your friend hopefully is that way inclined. So these are some of the things that you need to do if you want to be the son that has a chance to successfully achieve knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. All these things that he needs to learn if he is to acquire, these are all the things he needs to learn if he is to acquire wealth. And so to achieve this wealth, he will devote whatever time he has available whenever he is able. As for the foolish man, his mind is overgrown with thorns, including all kinds of foolish and silly ideas that he picks up from the street, ideas that come into his mind because of neglect. As a result, he has ruined his opportunity to make something out of himself. When an intelligent person thinks about the above mashal, that is the above parable, he will derive lessons from it concerning his ultimate destiny in the next world, which is his true home. He will prepare for that objective with all his abilities. And you also have to bear in mind, one of the things that help to mitigate the onset of Alzheimer's or dementia is constantly learning. If you are constantly a learning machine, really learning every day and say, today, what am I going to learn? This is going to be an exciting day because I'm going to learn something new. And you can stick to that and you keep that going as a through line through your life, you'll be less likely to be overcome. Nothing's a guarantee. Of course, any one of us, Chas v'shalom, could be hit by a bus tomorrow, but you will lessen the chance and the likelihood of, in older years, in your senior years, having sort of mental disorders and diseases eventuating. If you don't use it, you lose it. When an intelligent person thinks about the mashal, he will derive lessons from it concerning his ultimate destiny in the next world, which is his true home. So we're only temporary sojourners in this world. Never forget the fact that you're only here for a finite amount of time. He'll prepare for that objective with all of his abilities. Whenever he has a chance, he will do something to prepare himself for the greatness of the world to come. Now, that doesn't mean he will neglect the Olam Hazeh, which is this current world. On the contrary, the Olam Hazeh is important to him because he knows that he must utilize this world to get to the next world. Therefore, he will treat his wife with the greatest kokma and with the greatest of wisdom and consideration, and he will treat his kavarim, his family, with the greatest chokmah and consideration. So his loved ones, his partner, he will nurture and he will show them love and respect, and he will not be kind of absent. He will engage with them, and he will be a support for them when they need it, and he will be a shoulder to cry on. He'll be somebody to be joyful with, and when times are joyful, to be excited about, and when times are sad, to be sad together. Each intention with another person is an opportunity, each interaction rather, sorry about that, with another person is an opportunity to gain greatness for his neshama, that's his soul. He will also utilize every chance that he gets to learn Torah, to think about Hashem, and to make progress in matters of imunah and dat. So in matters of faith and knowledge. By constructively employing his spare time, he will be building himself up for the future. So this is how you have to start thinking about how the greats think. These men that became people in the Torah world, how did they achieve that? Because many of them, if not most of them, all got there, and it had nothing to do with stature or wealth. It all had to do with intestinal fortitude and consistency, and being vigilant, and always looking out for opportunities to learn. And they would learn from anyone, not just a wise person. They would even learn from a fool. When he works at meeting when he works at meeting his worldly when he works at meeting his worldly needs, he will do it as though he is doing it for others rather than for himself, and so he will do only what is necessary for his subsistence. So he's not going to overly purchase what he needs for his weekly or fortnightly food in the home. He will buy what's economical, or perhaps he'll buy a bit extra in case he anticipates having some guests. But he's not going to fill his pantry full of food that he isn't going to eat. He's not going to overindulge and put more on his plate than is going to just be what he needs. You know, he's not going to, after every meal, he's not going to get to the point where he's eaten so much that he feels full or nauseous. When he works, to earn his living, the wise person will do only what is necessary and do only the work for which he is being paid. Even when he is self-employed, it will be like he is working for others. He will be conscientious and he won't waste time. So even during his working hours, when he's working for the man, when he's working for somebody else, he will pay close attention as to how the organization works, how the business is run, and he'll be constantly taking notes in his mind. This is how the business is run. This is how everybody kind of manages all the different things. And we have a toolbox talk in the morning, and it keeps the communication up. And this is very important. I'm going to keep this in mind because this could help me in terms of me wanting to do something of my own. He won't look to do superfluous things such as engaging in entertainment and hobbies for the purpose of killing time. He will do only what is necessary for him to succeed in his livelihood. So Netflix and all streaming services that are available to you, social media platforms, and these are all things that are rife with temptations that will cause you to waste your time. They'll cause you to waste your time. I think in this current generation with so many distractions, electronic distractions, there are going to be way more people nearing the end of their lives with way more regret than we've had experienced in previous generations. Because you can just waste so much of your life watching series after series and show after show, and at the end of the day, nobody cares how good the series was and that you saw it, and nobody essentially has no practical value to know that you finished, all 12 levels of this complex video game. And you can also play games online, which is a lot of fun, and it's so addictive that that'll be what you're wanting to do every night. You'll get online and there's 10 other people, some of which of the people you actually know, and you're playing live, and there's lots of laughs, but there can be a lot of frustration, there can be a lot of aggression and anger too if you're not careful. But at the end of the day, that's not achieving anything for yourself. You're just entertaining yourself, and you're just biding time and waiting around for the grave in an entertaining way. And that's the reality. It's true. It's probably not what most people or many people want to hear, but that's reality, and you've got to pull yourself out of that scenario and kick all those things to the curb and start learning. If you're serious and you want a fighting chance when it comes your time to go to the grave. When working for others, a person tends to be conscientious because he is being paid for his efforts. Similarly, when working for his future in the next world, he should work at it as if he is trying to gain the approval of his boss. When a man comes home in the evening and has little spare time, or when he has time on Shabbat or the day off, he should make the best possible use of his time. So make the best possible use of your time. Get off these social media platforms. Disengage from these pointless discussions and debates and arguments that you're having online about theology. It will have no bearing on your judgment for the good, because this is not actually part of your faith. This is extracurricular, and it is not the core of who you are. You are not who you are in a debate. You are who you are when you're conducting yourself as a member of the workforce, when you're conducting yourself as a father, as a husband, as a teacher, as a learner, as a member of the human race. Not, a lot of people out there think they're of a particular religious affiliation, and when you look at actually what their actual daily schedule is like and what their week looks like, it looks no different, or very little of it looks any different to a secular person, except that they're engaged in all these theological discussions and arguments online, which amount to nothing and don't do the person any favor in terms of their judgment. Who cares if you're right about an argument? At the end of the day, that's not going to actually improve your observance. It's just going to mean that you can win an argument, and some of the times you're not even right about it. And at the end of the day, when you are right about it, the other person's upset because you won the argument. And so you haven't won a soul, you've just made a person even more entrenched to be against your cause. Of course, working at a business can be a big mitzvah. So working somebody else's business can be a big mitzvah, depending on what his intention is. However, a foolish man lives for his business or his entertainments and his hobbies. So you don't want your business to be a means unto an end. You want your business to be able to provide a good life for your family, and also promote Torah, and also promote other people to be able to become learned in the Torah as well. What's a good investment of your money? Best investment of your money is to involve your money in Orthodox Jewish Kiruv, and that is outreach, so that other Jews and other Gentiles who want to come to the knowledge of the truth and follow the Torah may have the resources and the ability to do so. And this is an investment that is always going to be the gift that keeps on giving. He is attracted to art, travel, music, good times, and attending parties. He never misses an opportunity to go to a good party, whether it's kesunah, a wedding, or a bar mitzvah, or a kiddush. Whenever you can go someplace to have a good time, wherever he can go someplace to have a good time, he goes, because that's the important thing in his life. And a lot of people do that. I meet people, they're always going to different concerts and venues, and seeing different bands, or seeing various entertainments at things. And, they've got one scheduled nearly every 2 weeks, every fortnight. And they're out and about, and they go back to the after parties, and their life is just, one big social event after another. And then before long, they grow old, and they realize they've got nothing to show for it. Their bodies are becoming winding down, and they've got no wisdom, knowledge, or understanding about anything that is, beyond just the human lifespan of a person. They've not grown at all spiritually, intellectually, or mentally. They've stayed perpetually as an 18-year-old, but grown old. As the wise one Shlomo HaMelech said, quoting from Proverbs 24:32, when he regarded the fool, I saw, and the field of the fool that I saw. Let me read that again. When he regarded the fool, I saw the field of the fool that was desolate and overgrown with thorns, and I put my mind to it. I saw it and took instruction from that. So he looked at a person that's negligent, that's foolish, and he saw what becomes of his property, and it goes into, it just goes into chaos. It goes into just a rubbish dump. And you can see that today when you go over to people's houses. You can see that they don't look after themselves. They just, and they end up becoming people that are hoarders. They just hoard things in their house, and their house just becomes like just a rubbish dump. Because they're not willing to throw anything out and clean the place, keep the place clean on a daily basis. What instruction did he take? That a person shouldn't let his field grow wild and desolate? No, that is not what Shlomo HaMelech means. Certainly a person should take care of his field, but that's not the point. He's referring to the mind, saying that a person must not allow it to become desolate and overgrown with thorns. The neshama and the character must be cultivated. So you must work hard to improve your demeanor, to improve your character, and become somebody who is wanting to attain righteousness. You want to strive for traits such as humility, strive for traits you want to have a good trait of you want to have a good sort of array of ethics. You want to have a good sense of a code of conduct, and you want to be non-compromising. You don't want to, okay, I've had a few drinks and now I can go off and do this, and I wouldn't do that unless I had a few drinks. So it's going to, in many ways, you're always only 3 or 4 drinks away from doing something that it flies completely in the face of that which you profess to be about. Okay, so that takes us to page 134, and that was just a summary of this whole story of these 2 very different individuals, 2 brothers. One works hard to cultivate himself, and the other one neglects his field. He neglects himself, essentially. That's the mashal. Okay, so this is now getting into the signs of wisdom. This is number 4, the signs of wisdom, chapter 4, number 1, introduction. We now start the 4th perek, the 4th chapter, We have explained in the previous parak, in the previous chapter, that reflecting on creation can be done by studying the signs of Chokhmah, that is wisdom, in the world that Hashem has created. If we study the signs of Chokhmah, we will see that it demonstrates his Givora, his might, and his Chesed, that is his loving kindness, qualities that are interrelated. So not only does Hashem display huge amounts of might in his creation, but if you look carefully into creation, you will see that he is arrayed in a way that shows kindness. Essentially, the world has been created for man to inhabit. And the actual focal point of all the creation of the world and its ecology and all the wildlife and everything has been set up to posture and appeal to mankind, which is the pinnacle of Hashem's creation. So it's all pointing towards man being the sort of central kind of focus of the world. And when we look and study the world, and we study the seasons, we study all the elements of nature, we can see that Hashem has essentially set everything up for mankind's well-being, to be able to live and participate in the world and get on with his life. Rabbi Yochanan notes a pattern in the Tanakh that wherever it speaks of Gevurah of Hashem, that is the might of Hashem, it immediately tells us of Hashem's great kindness, because all his Gevurah, all his mights, all his strengths is only to help mankind. As we say every day, and this is quoting from the Megillah, the 31a, Tractate Megillah 31a. This is quoting from the Shemoneh Esrei, rather, not the Megillah, not Tractate Megillah 31a. It's quoting from the Shemoneh Esrei, the second blessing of the Shemoneh Esrei, which an Orthodox Jew will say 3 times a day. Your kingdom is a kingdom spanning all eternities, and your dominion is throughout every generation. End of quote. This emphasizes that Hashem's power is everywhere and for all time. It is immediately followed by the verse, Hashem supports all the fallen and straightens all the bent. In this parak, we shall study the signs of Chokhmah of Hashem in his creations. Therefore, we need to ask, how many signs of wisdom are there in Hashem's creation, about which we can reflect? There are some things which we cannot investigate because they are invisible to us and are not open for us to know. But among those creations that are open to us, the author identifies 7 basic categories. And this, you got to bear in mind when the Kavod HaLevavot was originally written nearly 1,000 years ago. And today they've discovered atoms and elements and all these sorts of things that are actually moving really fast, that actually make up the fabric of everything that we can see in the material world. But essentially, they're things that actually are moving at great speed to give the definition of a solid object. We can say that there are 7 categories. It's just one example of science making progress in terms of what it can eventually find, and all the time it's discovering new things. We can say that there are 7 categories of wisdom among the world's many species of subspecies. We need to spend time thinking about the plan and the purpose of Hashem and his kindness in each of these categories. So in this video, we will look at the first category. The first category of wisdom. The first category of wisdom deals with the basic laws of physics and chemistry. The author didn't have access to the discoveries that were made since, and so he uses terminology that were familiar to people 1,000 years ago when the Kavod HaLevavot was written. Thus, he refers to 4 basic elements: earth, water, air, and fire. As those terms don't mean that much to us today, we will not dwell on them here, other than provide a simple translation. Okay, so the first category of the subjects that have to be studied are the signs of Hashem's wisdom that are clearly seen in the foundations of the world, and its 4 basic elements: earth, water, air, and fire, one above the other. We observe that the platform of the earth is in the center, a layer of water is adjacent to it, and above it the air is above it, and close to them the element of fire is above them all, in proper balance and proportion. Nothing changes from this perfect structure. Each of the elements remains in its designated position. The sea stays in one place, with the water confined within it, never overflowing its boundaries. Even when its waves are in turmoil and its winds are storming, as it is written, quoting from Job 38:10 through 11, and I constrained the sea with my limits, and set a bar and bolted doors, and said, until here shall you go and no further, and here the majesty of your waves shall cease. Regarding the firmness of the heaven and the earth, it is written, and this is quoting from Psalm 119, verses 89 through to 91. I'm just finding my place. Forever, Hashem, your word stands firm in the heavens. Your steadfastness is from generation to generation. You establish the earth and it endures to fulfill your decree. They stand this day, for all are your servants. David also spoke of this concept in the Psalms. Bless Hashem, O my soul. And that's again quoting... Well, no, that's actually not quoting from the same Psalm, but nonetheless it's from Psalms 104, verse 1. Blessed is he who has mercy on the earth. Oh no, I missed a bit. Bless Hashem, O my soul. Sorry, that's from Psalm 104, verse 1. When we look at the world, we're getting to another psalm in a second. When we look at the world, we see the intricate workings of physics and chemistry. We see structure and purpose. We see that the workings of the world are all for one kindness, are all for kindness. Not one kindness, the text actually says all for kindness. The laws of nature are there to help the world function for the benefit of its inhabitants. As we say, blessed is he who has mercy on the creatures, which refers to all the creatures of the world, but most of all to mankind. And that is from the classic section in the morning tefillot prayers, the Pesuki de Zimra, which is essentially a quote from the book of Psalms anyway. Light is one of the remarkable phenomena of physics. The light from the sun travels to us at the fantastic speed of 186,282 miles a second. Thus, although the sun is about 93 million miles away, the sunlight reaches us in just 8 minutes. If the sun was a little closer to us, or if the sun was just a little bit bigger in size, we would have burned to a crisp. Nothing would survive the heat. If it was a little further away or just a little smaller, we would be frozen to solid ice. We need the warmth of the sun, so the sun is exactly the right size and at the right distance for human and animal life to exist and flourish on Earth. Furthermore, the amount of energy reaching us in the form of the sun's rays is equivalent to millions of horsepower of energy striking our planet every minute. That energy goes into food, the food we eat, which then goes into our bodies. Essentially, all the energy that enables us to function comes from the sun. Our bodies store the energy in chemical form so we can walk and talk. It is like having a battery in each one of us. It is clear to anyone who thinks about all this that that light is a miracle. The Malakim, the angels, express overwhelming enthusiasm over this miracle, and they call out to Hashem, Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy. And and what is it that arouses this enthusiasm? It is, as we say in the previous paragraph, this is from the Kriyat Shema, and for the luminaries of the light that you made, they shall glorify you forever. Without the phenomenon of sound, we couldn't talk to each other, and there would be no civilization. When we talk, we make sound waves that travel in the air until finally they hit the eardrum of the listener. The eardrum is especially constructed to accept those sounds and convert them into electrical impulses that are sent to the brain via nerve cells. The brain registers the sound and makes sense of them. Surely sound is one of the marvelous phenomena of the world. And indeed it is. People fall in love with different types of genres of music, and it becomes a big part of certain people's lives. When I was growing up, music was my refuge. Music was something that made my life worth living. And, I'd spend every last penny I could on an LP or a record, and I would travel and go places that I wouldn't normally go to if I was not trying to hunt down an obscure record. It's just amazing how you will come out of your shell if you develop, a kind of an intense interest or a desire in something. And this may have been a temporal material thing, had nothing to do with religion at the time. Far be it from that. It was very far from that, rather. That if you can convert that or channel that into something worthwhile is an amazing thing. It really gives you a spring in your step regarding your life. We should not take it for granted that when we drop something, it falls to the earth. Why shouldn't things fall up or remain where they are? life would be very difficult indeed without the comforting law of gravity to keep us all safely close to the ground. The strength of the gravitational force is balanced so that it prevents us from flying off into space when we jump up, but does not hold us so tightly that we're unable to move. No other planet is covered by a mantle of soil and supplied with water in the right amounts and temperatures to foster vegetation, as is our own Earth. And once we think about it, we realize that there are thousands upon thousands of such phenomena in nature that are precisely balanced to make it possible for mankind to exist upon the Earth. The existence of life on our planet depends so many thousands of conditions. I think there's a typo there. Depends on so many thousands of conditions that it is impossible for them to be duplicated anyplace else. There is no other planet that has this unique combination of features, and there will never be one. Our bodies need salt, a substance that may be found in every cell. Salt enables the chemical process of the body and thereby gives life to every person. What is salt? It is a substance composed of two poisons, sodium and chlorine. When sodium and chlorine is placed on the skin, it burns a hole right through the flesh. Chlorine is a poisonous gas, and yet when these two substances unite chemically, they form sodium chloride, which is a common salt, the substance that is essential to all life. That's how Hashem works. He takes all kinds of substances that are harmful or neutral in themselves and combines them to provide tens of thousands of essential materials that we need. One doesn't need to be a great scholar or scientist to easily see the great wisdom of Hashem. Even superficially, it is easy to see the great wisdom in the design of the world, so that all people can be aware of the presence of the great designer who planned all this with the intent of creating a place on this earth for mankind to live. Studying the plan and the purpose. Although the author has covered some fascinating points, the reader should be aware that we have not yet reached the core of Shah HaBakina, that is the gate of examining. The author has been speaking of only the first category of study in the general plan and purpose that we see in the functioning world. I'll read that again. There is an endless number of other important and true principles that show plan and purpose. I didn't read that again. I read the next sentence. Let's go back. The author has been speaking of only the first category of study in the general plan and purpose that we see in the functioning of the world. There is an endless number of other important and true principles that show plan and purpose. Despite having been written 1,000 years ago, the author has stimulated us to appreciate the plan and purpose of nature in the terms of present-day concepts. So essentially, if you are being inspired by anything that you're reading here, you know, it's a wisdom that has been gleaned from the Tanakh, essentially, and, you know, thousands of years of Jewish wisdom and oral Torah that is coming to you to give you this boost. And so, you know, you can be like that to somebody else, and who knows, down the track you could write things down that also cause people to be inspired in years to come. In fact, the enemies of the Torah have never even attempted to explain some of the things we are speaking of here. So these are supposed atheists, people who proclaim themselves as atheists. And yet, you know, when they're sort of pinned down in a foxhole, they're all praying to God. They have toiled to reconstruct the history of living things by means of their theories. That's me, not you. That's sirens. The sirens are me, not you, if you can hear them. But they never attempted to explain the miraculous nature of what we will see on a daily basis, how the whole world of astronomy, physics, chemistry, and biology cooperate together. We need to learn to appreciate the sun, how the sun shines and evaporates the water of the ocean, so that the water vapor, which is lighter than air, rises up only to be blown over the continents by the wind. The cool wind passing through the clouds of water vapor condenses the water vapor and turns it into rain, which is brought down to the fields and forests by the force of gravity. The earth has a mantle of soil that is waiting for the rain, and that soil is supplied with all the bacteria and fungus that it needs to foster the growth of vegetation. There are thousands of different kinds of living things in the soil, all of which are necessary to help crops grow, and they all cooperate to produce food. So if the rain doesn't water the soil and the dew doesn't fall, then, the soil will become too dry and it won't produce fruit. You can't grow things to eat in the soil if it's not, given moisture and a time of night time to rest. Otherwise, the sun will just dry it out if there was no night time for the soil. We don't look at all of this as something that was developed by chance, the mindless product of a struggle for survival. All of this cooperation among the forces of nature has been going on from the very beginning. And therefore, it is the most marvelous demonstration of Hashem's plan and purpose. There are many other phenomena of that sort that are profitable for us to study. We shall visit them in the course of future chapters. Now we go to the second category of wisdom. And we'll leave it there. That takes us to page 139. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. The secret word is miniature. The secret word is miniature. So put it in a comment if you can, so other people don't realize what we're doing. And I know one person out there does this consistently, and I want to thank you so much for your continued support. And until next time, Hashem willing, bye for now.